Rosie and 87546 were working hard all day. That night, Sir Topham Hatt came to see them. "Since you both have been working hard, you should get a day off," he said. Both Rosie and 87546 were very happy. The next day, they went exploring. "What is this place?" asked 87546. "Well," said Rosie, "this place was the terminus of the South Sodor Railway," I said. "I really enjoyed watching the Northwestern engines leave with the coaches we brought in," I puffed. After they were done talking, something happened. Nick, Damien, and Flynn closed in on Rosie and 87546. "Come with us, because we got something to show you," puffed Damien. She and 87546 were cross when they found out about it at Zach's new lair. "Zach? I thought I defeated you on that bridge," Rosie chuffed. "Correct," he said, "but I was lifted out of that stupid water area. And while I was on that flatbed, I teamed up with P.T. Boomer. And after that, he and I found those 3 engines, and all 5 of us will have my revenge on you idiots." "Yes, we'll try to sabotage any of your plans to defeat us," said P.T. Boomer. Flynn copied what Boomer said. "Zip it, you dummy," said Zach to Flynn, causing the green austerity to fall back in line. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we got a revenge plan to try to execute," puffed Zach as he and his villainous allies left. Rosie and 87546 decided to put their exploration plan on hold in order to stop Zach and his cronies, so they decided to track them down. "You idiots can't catch us," Zach puffed. After the villains escaped, they were coming up with a plan. "Any ideas?" puffed Zach. "How about sabotaging their work, then capturing Rosie and 87546, said P.T. Boomer. "Nice idea," chuffed Zach. "Nick, couple up to them and hold them back until me and the others get there." Later, Rosie and 87546 were getting ready to go when Nick arrived. The big orange engine had his brakes on while Rosie and 87546 were getting ready to leave. The 2 engines were frustrated as Damien, P.T. Boomer, Zach, and Flynn arrived. The villains captured them, then took Rosie and 87546 back to the old South Sodor freight yard. Despite Zach, Flynn, Damien, and Nick bumping them during the journey, they made it to the old yard. P.T. Boomer looked at the 2 engines, scaring them to death. "Me and my friends here will crush you 2 like fruit," said P.T. Boomer. This caused him, along with Zach, Nick, Damien, and Flynn, to laugh evilly. "Oh no," puffed Rosie. "Oh no is right," puffed Flynn. "You steal anything I'm about to say, and you're going to be a pile of scrap metal. Mark my words," said Zack. This put Flynn back in line again. Rosie and 87546 left in fear. Flynn was about to give chase, but was stopped by Zack. "We'll get them tomorrow," he said. Rosie and 87546 continued worrying about Zack's plan, but they were able to get through to the next day. Meanwhile, in the old freight yard, the villains were coming up with another evil plot. "That part failed, but we'll get revenge on her in other ways," puffed Zack. "Damien, you steal Rosie's train and bring it to me." "Sure thing," chuffed Damien. "That could get her to follow us," said Nick. To their annoyance, Rosie and 87546 were switched off the right line by P.T. Boomer. Damien backed down on their train. "Ha! The boss is going to love this," he puffed as he left. "Let's get him," puffed 87546. "Nice thinking," puffed Rosie. "Get back here," said 87546. "Never, because this is what the boss wants," puffed Damien. The two best friends continued to chase Damien down the tracks. Soon enough, Rosie and 87546 buffered up to the train and coupled up. She had her brakes on, causing Damien to not go anywhere, albeit his wheels still spinning. He then derailed off the bridge and fell onto grass. Damien's tender went in the water. As they were leaving, a splash sound was heard. "Mwahahaha!" This is not the end of me, he puffed from underwater. Rosie and 87546 managed to get back to Hilltop Yards. That was great defeating Damien, puffed Rosie. It sure was, replied 87546. Zack, on the other hand, was not happy. Those two bozos defeated Damien? Well, they have another thing coming, he chuffed. How about I charge them with a snowplow, puffed Nick. Great idea, Zack replied. That's clever thinking, P.T. Boomer added. Rosie and 87546 were about to find their next train until they heard Nick's whistle. Nick was chasing them with a snowplow. This is for sending Zack into the river, he said. Now, Damien will be stuck in his watery place because of you, Nick puffed. Rosie and 87546 rounded a curve at a siding, and so did Nick. Rosie and 87546 stopped on a viaduct. Nick caught up to them. With clever thinking, Rosie and 87546 applied their brakes. When Nick caught up to them, the two engines reversed, giving him a jolt. The two engines were happy after Nick fell off the rails and into the bushes below. Curse you too! It's not over yet, puffed Nick as Rosie and 87546 were leaving. Flynn puffed up to Zack and P.T. Boomer. Those two idiots took out Nick and Damien, he said. What? That's impossible, puffed Zack. I'm going to teach you something, he added. This caused Flynn to stand up for himself. You two are nothing but full of hate, puffed the austerity as he left. The next day, Rosie and 87546 told Sir Topham Hatt about restoring the South Sodor Railway. That's a fine idea, he said. Soon enough, the restoration project was commenced. Rosie and 87546 were taking a coach of workers to one of the restoration sites when suddenly... they saw dust coming from the bridge. Someone, help us! Puffed 87546. Flynn buffered up behind Rosie and 87546, and he pushed them across the bridge before it could collapse. After the bridge's near collapse, Flynn apologized, and Rosie and 87546 forgave him. Later, Sir Topham Hatt came to see him. Flynn, because you saved two of my engines, how would you like to live here on my railway? He asked. I feel like I deserve it for saving two friends in need, he puffed. After Flynn was purchased by the Northwestern Railway, he helped out with the restoration project. Later that day, Sir Topham Hatt came to see the three. You did your best. Even Henry helped out, he said. Very soon, We're going to reopen the old lines as an extension to my railway, he said. Rosie, Flynn, and 87546 were cheered with delight. Zack was not pleased, and he told P.T. Boomer about it. Let's execute this revenge plot. And this time, Rosie, 87546, and Flynn will not interfere, puffed Zack. Then, he and Boomer left the area. Then, Rosie came up with a plan. Rosie, along with Flynn and 87546, to a cliff and wait for him. Rosie, along with Flynn and 87546, would go to a cliff and wait for him. Should she need help, they would be there for her. Meanwhile, Zack and P.T. Boomer were chuffing down the tracks in search of Rosie, 87546, and Flynn. Rosie went to the cliff with Flynn and 87546 far behind her. I think I'll love this plan as much as copying Thomas, she said. Then there was a whistle that infuriated her. Oh, great. It's you, said Rosie as Zack came up to her. Mwahahahahaha, he puffed. After the closure of the South Sodor Railway, I was bought by a private owner in Ireland, and he made me carry garbage trains. That's why I've been evil, he said. Rosie decided it was time for her to take action. He and Rosie kept pushing on one another, causing them to go backwards or forwards. All hope was lost for Rosie until she heard 2 whistles. Flynn and 87546 came to help. P.T. Boomer was inside Zack's cab. Together, the 3 engines pushed him with all their might. Curse you and your idiotic friends! Zack growled in anger after coming off the rails. Rosie, 87546, and Flynn heard a crash sound as they left. The 2 villains had fallen into a garbage barge. Rosie, 87546, and Flynn. Here's my message. I'll be back, Zack puffed. And so will I, Boomer added. Zack and I will continue to get back at you 3. Later, Sir Topham Hatt came to see the 3 engines. How about you guys take the opening train as a reward for your roles in defeating the 4 nasty villains? He said. Sure thing. Rosie 87546 and Flynn puffed in unison. Soon enough, it was opening day. Rosie 87546 and Gillen took the opening train. Rosie 87546 and Flynn took the opening train down the line after cutting the ribbon. Nowadays, the NWR engines take people to the old South Sodor railway terminus. The engine that takes the passengers there is exchanged with an LMS Patriot engine named Addie, who takes them away, but not without blowing her whistle. And she takes them on a tour of the rest of the old South Sodor Railway, but stops at some museum stations so that the passengers can learn about the old railway's history. The barge kept going into the Pacific Ocean. Suddenly, it broke down in the middle of where it was going. "Don't worry, Boomer," said Zack. We'll find another way to wipe Rosie off the face of the earth. I agree, said P.T. Boomer replied. The two were left stranded in the middle of the ocean. I think Zack and Boomer got their just desserts while being stranded in the middle of the ocean, puffed Rosie. I agree, puffed 87546. Me as well. Those brutes won't be bothering us because they're stuck in the Pacific Ocean, Flynn added. The three engines laughed and laughed.